Okay, jumping right back in, this is part 7 of the Larry Millete trial that's happening in San Diego. Please go back and listen to the previous one because I'm covering this is all the same day. Mary Chris, the sister, is on the stand and she's being cross-examined by the defense attorney. So they're talking about her and Larry, and she says in the very beginning, Mary Chris and Larry were still talking pretty regularly. She was organizing these search parties, staying in touch with Larry, asking Larry if he'd heard anything. And Larry would stay home with the kids while Mary Chris and some others and some volunteers all would go out and search on the weekends. The defense attorney suggested, and I don't really understand the purpose of this, but he says to Mary Chris, you were the one that was in charge of all the searches. Maybe he's trying to say she didn't search in the right places or do enough. I don't know. You were the one that took charge. You were leading the searches. And she says, well, just for the first few days. And then after that, I think it kind of became this organic thing where people were concerned. They kept hearing about it. So people were just sort of getting together and searching anyway. Whether or not she organized it or not, there were search parties going on all around Southern California looking for Maya. But there was a point where communication between Mary Chris and Larry stopped. So my guess is that the defense, if I'm the defense attorney, this is what makes sense to me, is they're trying to say, Mary Chris is accusing Larry of not being concerned about his wife and he's not participating in the searches. And I think the defense is going to say, well, but you stopped talking to him. So how would he even know what's going on? Like, you cut him out of the information, so he couldn't have helped if he wanted to. I think that's what they're going for. It's hard to tell because I can't watch the testimony. I can only read what a reporter is saying. Now, at this point, the defense attorney asks Judge Camarena for a sidebar, and they all go and they talk. And then the judge calls a 20-minute recess. Then when everyone comes back from the 20-minute recess, the judge says, you know what? We're going to recess court for the day. We're going to end a little bit early. We need everybody back Thursday at 9 a.m. So they'll be back today at 9 a.m. Maybe this is why the judge was like, get out of the courtroom. Let's deal with this issue. Larry, on Tuesday night, so let's go back. Tuesday was the day that Papa testified. And it was at the very end of the day, and he had this very emotional outburst. This is Maya's father. He was working with a translator, but at one point, speaking for himself, he spoke enough English to yell and scream at Larry and say, why did you do this? I loved my daughter. Why did you do this? Why did you do this? And here's a picture of him. He's a much older man. This is very emotional. The judge had to clear the courtroom to keep the jury from hearing more. It was kind of a mess. That night, Larry goes back to the jail, and Larry, for some reason, gets to call the news station. I know he gets phone calls, but he calls NBC7 News that night. And they recorded the call, right? And then they reported on it like they should. Larry calls them and he says, among other things, I've just got some bullet points, but he says he doesn't believe he's getting a fair trial. He doesn't think that the jury could put aside, the judge told the jury, ignore what Papa said. But Larry says, I don't think they could put that aside. Like, they've heard it. It was emotional. I don't think, even if they tried, that they could put that aside. He was concerned that too many of the jurors that were selected had already heard information about the case. Now, I don't know why he thought he would get a jury that had never heard about the case. Just because they've heard about the case doesn't mean they can't hear both sides and judge fairly. But to him, in his spell-casting little mind, he thinks that if you even heard of him, then you're probably going to be a biased juror, which, I don't know, makes me feel like he's got some guilty feelings. Anyway, he also said that the jury, like when they take breaks and the jury goes outside the courtroom, he says there's lots of people discussing the case, like out in the hallway, out in front of the jurors. And so they hear things. But I got to ask you, he's concerned the jury's heard too much. He's concerned that the case is making too much news, that the jury is getting biased by all the things they're hearing. But this dumb motherfucker calls the news. He calls the news, and he knows they're going to put it on the news. And they did. In the middle of the day yesterday, they put out on their blog. I don't think they've put it on TV, but they put like on their blog. So if you're on the NBC7 app, there's a video or an audio of Larry talking to their news person being interviewed. So of course they're going to publish it. So this guy is complaining that this is getting too much press, that the jury's hearing too many things. And then he's going to call the news and make sure they hear his side of the story. Like, it is so pathetic. But anyway, He ends with saying he's very pleased with his defense team. He thinks they're doing a really nice job of defending him to the best they can. So that's what happened with the late night news call that Larry made. They're back in court today. And I don't know if they're going to put Mary Chris back up there. It feels to me like her cross-examination was interrupted. There's something else that they're trying to get to, but they needed to verify with the judge. So maybe she'll be back up there today, and then I'll bring you coverage of whatever happens.